in Jonesboro, Arkansas have released new information in the case of Chaves Carter, the young man who died while in their custody a few weeks ago. They've released dash cam video from a police cruiser which offers a glimpse of the scene the night officers pulled Carter over. They also put out a number of videotaped eyewitness interviews. Does this new information answer the key question? Was Carter's death suicide or was it homicide? Randy Kay tonight with our report.
No one is disputing that Chaves Carter died from a gunshot to the head while in the backseat of a police car in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The question is, who pulled the trigger? Police say he committed suicide.
Quite frankly, I've seen some of our people in custody do some amazing things.
But Carter's mother doesn't buy it. She believes Jonesboro police killed her son.
I think they killed him. I mean, my son was suicidal.
At this point, it's still debatable and still under investigation. Here's why. 21-year-old Chaves Carter was handcuffed at the time the fatal shot was fired, double locked behind his back. Is it even possible, physically, to be handcuffed behind your back and somehow pull the trigger on a gun that you weren't holding when you were handcuffed?
The average person that's never been in handcuffs, that's never been around inmates and people in custody would react exactly the same way that you just did about how can that be possible? Well, the fact of it is, it's very possible, and it's quite easy.
Chaves Carter and two others were pulled over July 29th, just before 10 p.m. for driving suspiciously. The first officer called for backup. Then the two of them questioned and searched the three men in the truck. When officers first searched Carter, they say they found a small amount of marijuana and some small plastic bags. They did not find a gun. According to the officers, Carter was then placed in the back seat of one of the police vehicles. At that point, they say, he was not handcuffed. It wasn't until later, when the officers searched the suspect's vehicle and found drug paraphernalia like electronic scales and a large bag of white powder, that they patted down Carter again. They placed him once again, they say, in the same police vehicle's back seat, only this time he was handcuffed. How Carter managed to shoot himself while handcuffed, using a concealed weapon police missed during not one but two searches, is a mystery to many, including the FBI, who was looking into it. In their searching, they find a small bag, $10 worth of marijuana, but they miss a gun?
Apparently.
Is that disappointing to you?
Yes.
The chief says the two men with Carter, who were white, were released. But Carter was held back after the officers, who were also white, discovered he'd given them a fake name, and there was a warrant for his arrest in Mississippi, where he'd skipped out on a drug diversion program. The chief says his officers don't know exactly when the fatal shot was fired, even though they were just feet away. According to this incident report, one of the officers heard, quote, a loud thump with a metallic sound, but thought it came from a vehicle that ran over a piece of metal on the roadway. Don't your officers know the sound of a gun being fired?
One would think, but when those guns are in a confined space like the rear of a police car, it could be very, very different.
It wasn't until the officers were about to leave when police say one of them smelled something burning in his vehicle. The chief says it was likely gun smoke. That's when police say the officer found Chaves Carter bloodied and slumped over in the back seat. The officers say they called an ambulance and tried to revive Carter. He died at the hospital.
I can't see.
Carter's mother says it just doesn't add up. She told reporters her son was shot in the right side of the head, but she points out he was left-handed. Police would only say he was shot in the head.
They searched him twice. I mean, I just want to know what really happened.
Teresa Carter says her son called his girlfriend from the scene to tell her he'd phone her from jail, which to her raises the question, does that sound like someone planning to commit suicide? In Jonesboro, supporters have held vigils. Like many, they wonder what motive Carter had to kill himself. A $10 bag of marijuana? White powder that hasn't tested positive for drugs and is likely sugar? An outstanding warrant? We asked the chief about Teresa Carter's allegations that one of his officers pulled the trigger. Can you safely say you've ruled that out in your investigation?
At this stage in the investigation, that's certainly a remote possibility. Like I said, we haven't excluded everything, but I feel confident that that's not what it is, but I certainly understand how she might feel that way.
Randy, police in Arkansas have now released that dash cam video from the officer's car that night, and I know you've had a chance to go through it. What in particular sticks out to you?
Well, Soledad, I should point out first that the two squad cars were parked trunk to trunk, so they don't actually capture any video of Chaves Carter in the back seat of the police car. But on this video that was released, you see the two officers standing around questioning the two white suspects, whom they later let go, and you see them about 8 minutes into the traffic stop leading Chaves Carter to the squad car, unhandcuffed at the time, and then he goes out of frame. But you hear one officer questioning him, asking him his name, where he's from, and he's extremely polite. That really stood out to me. The answers yes sir, no sir. You don't get any sense of tension at all. The officers are polite and calm, and Carter is as well.
So I guess the key question is, do you hear the bullet being fired in the audio portion of the tape?
Well, I watched and listened to that dash cam audio and video several times. It's about 40 minutes long, and nowhere on that video or in that audio do you hear the sound of a gunshot or a pop or anything, really, that remotely sounds like a bullet being fired. Now, remember, the officers had said, Soledad, that they didn't recall hearing the gunshot. One thought he heard a pop, but thought it was a car going over a piece of metal in the road, and we didn't hear it either.
So are there any witnesses who, ultimately might be able to help get at the truth?
There are several witnesses. Police released several witness interviews. Now, we're not sure, we should point out, how many witnesses in all were interviewed, and police redacted their information, so we don't know who they are or how to contact them. But these released interviews today include 2 African-American and 1 white witness, and not a single witness puts the officers in the car or in the back seat with Chaves Carter at the time of the shooting. 2 of the witnesses remember hearing a gunshot or something that sounded like it, but when asked about where the officers were at that moment, listen to what one witness said.
They put him in the back seat of the police car. Okay. And then, about 10, 15 minutes after that, we hear a loud pop. I'm like, what is going on?
You heard a pop?
Yeah, it sounded like a gun going off.
So where were the police officers when you heard this?
They were standing on the outside of the car.
When you heard the pop, the doors were open? On the police car?
The one he had in the back seat wasn't open.
They were closed?
Yes, sir.
Another witness says that he remembers one of the officers opening the door to his squad car and then yelling to his partner for help. And another thing, Soledad, that I should point out is that you do hear on the tape one of the officers talking about taking Chaves Carter to the county jail, which may speak to their intentions, but still no clear answer on what happened, and really there may never be.
Wow, so complicated and confusing. Randy Kay for us tonight. Randy, thanks.